Well, hello everyone. This is Victoria and Asha with Sister My Soul. It's been a minute. Asha and I haven't even connected, and we have found some time today to reconnect, to see where we are, to see where you are. I suspect that Asha and I, well, for me personally, I've been in a flurry of busyness and a lot going on. So I imagine a lot of people are experiencing the same. So I just want to just jump right in because we've only got 30 minutes today to see how you're doing, Asha, and where you're at, where you've been, and what's going on in your world.
Well, yeah, the same thing. I said I'm doing my version of barn raising. We don't do barn raising much these days, but I've had a number of people in my community who've been moving. So I've been helping a lot of people move or reorganize their space, create some order. That's something I'm good at. And I was like, why am all of a sudden I'm doing all this? I'm like, oh, that's what I'm good at. And this is my version of barn raising. I've gotten some other people to help here and there. So they're getting to do collective community service safely, but get people into some new places to live and experience. Because in this weird, tumultuous time, having a space that feels comfortable and safe and organized really seems to help, especially if we're going to be in it
Yeah,
and all that good stuff.
that's
So
awesome.
I'm good. I'm good. I definitely noticed a shift yesterday. I think somebody said the shadow of Mercury retrograde was over yesterday, and I definitely felt there was some energetic shift yesterday.
Hmm.
Um, but things have been interesting and good, and I've got 2 more people living in my house now, which is lovely. My long-term friend Tim, that I've known for 35 years or so, and his husband Pete moved up here from Southern California, and they're currently here. And then as they kind of settle into Olympic Peninsula life, they'll figure out where they want to live next. And we're happy to have them here, to have extra hands to help out on all the many things that get to be done. Pete loves to do landscaping and yard work. Yay. It takes one burden off my husband. And Pete also cooks. So my
Oh.
mom normally cooks 3 nights a week, and I cook 3 nights a week. So
Hmm.
now we've taken 2 of those nights off my mom's plate. And so she does Soup Saturday, which we call Super Saturday.
Hmm.
And Pete cooks another couple of nights, and he cooks completely differently from the both of us. So now we have variety, which is lovely,
Hmm.
and more people. And so we're all getting comfortable with how we live. I don't want you to just be guests. I want you to be able to know that you live here and that, information about it. So we're doing what we can to keep our communications open. Because I said, in the summer when a bunch of people were here visiting, we had places to go outside when we wanted a little more elbow room. But now as it gets colder and colder, we're going to be inside. So we're figuring it out, and it seems to be working well. They're easygoing, easy people to get along with.
Hmm.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have said yes.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to have new energies and to notice how much my friend Tim is like me and his husband Pete is like my husband. So we all have sort of allies and also different understandings. Like Tim and I can go, oh yeah, that's how they do that, and they can go, yeah, that's how they do that. So having that is also a little extra. It gives perspective and a little extra blessing and a little extra camaraderie
Mhm.
that often we can't see what's right in front of us unless we see it in another person.
Mhm. More
So
mirrors.
that's good.
Yeah,
And
more
just this
mirrors.
morning, I were having a simply do a big thing, and instead of just letting it become a big thing and then kind of leave it there, we both were dogged in our determination to figure out what happened there in this simple conversation about gravel that got all kinds of other things involved.
Hmm.
And we doggedly kept at it until both of us had a different understanding about what happened and each other, and dissipated whatever the kind of edgy energy was, which
Hmm.
was good. I started to get up and just leave because I was like, this isn't working and it's getting more frustrating, which is my pattern, get up, run, run. It's getting too hard, run.
Hmm.
And I get through it, work, continue to ask questions, be willing.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
part of that's what's been going on for me in the last several weeks since the election. That first Friday after the election, when we still didn't know what was going on,
Mhm.
I had in the middle of the night, I woke up and I noticed myself starting to get panicky.
Mhm.
And, if this happens, then what? And I started to go, and then all of a sudden I popped out of my body and I saw myself stand across roads. And down this road was panic,
Hmm.
freak out, uh, crying, helplessness, futility. It was like a dark, spiky forest. And
Hmm.
this other road was unknown, but it wasn't that. And I saw
Mhm.
myself standing there, and I said to my over self was saying to my little self, you can have a panic attack if you want.
Hmm.
You can freak out if you want.
Hmm.
What do you want to do?
Hmm. What do you?
Wrong. I call it the click. I had a strong internal click that happened that said, no,
Hmm.
I refuse to give up my peace for this.
Hmm.
For me, it's I refuse to give up my peace for whoever the president may or may not be. And my preferences are one way, and I don't know what somebody else's preferences are, but I know my preferences.
Hmm.
And I said, I refuse to give up my peace to this other person, to the circumstances, to the situation. I can, and I refuse to do it. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what it felt like this morning. We can go off and both be in a huff and frustrated about the conversation, and no,
Hmm.
that's not what we're here to do and be for each other.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to give up my peace to
Hmm.
get caught in some kind of made up drama. We were making up a drama with each other so that we could feel whatever we needed to feel.
Hmm.
And was it worth it? So that's been an interesting click for me, because since then, every time I notice something starting to rise up in me where I normally would get like really frustrated,
Mhm.
feel like I need to give up or say no to a bunch of stuff because I'd committed myself to help with a lot of projects for people. And there
Mhm.
was a little part of me that was like, no, it's too much and I'm overwhelmed and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, just, like I tell other people, just do the next 10 minutes.
Mhm.
One of my friends who was moving was 80 years old and
Oh.
she was exhausted.
Hmm.
She started to have a meltdown the couple of days before as she was continuing to pack. I can't do it. It's too much. And I said, oh, you can't do the whole thing. The whole thing is impossible.
Hmm.
You can do 10 minutes.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
can you do in the next 10 minutes?
Yes.
So the refusal to give up my peace for any person or outside circumstance, and
Mhm.
I just do the next 10 minutes,
Mhm.
is really serving me right now.
Love it. Love it.
That's me.
Yes. Oh, so much there as always. And it's so interesting because I listen on like multiple layers. Like I'm listening like in the sister, me too, and then the perspective of the symbology of it all. And we've talked about this before, that what's coming forward, I think it's important to watch that way, to have that spiritual perspective of the human experience as you're helping people move and you're helping them get organized. And I think, gosh, that's what I feel called to do personally. And I think that's what we're being called to do collectively, to move out of our stuck places or our convoluted places or our overpacked with old stuff places so we can move to a new place and organize that and have whatever that provides for us individually and collectively. So it's so
Yeah.
interesting to see that thread through a lot of people I talk to and myself. And again, if we look back at the astrology of 2020, that's what we were asked to do, you know, demolish or dissolve structures that don't work, create new structures, create out of what we've learned that would be better for ourselves
Yeah.
and and so that's where we still are. And you're right, there has been a shift in energy. We still have some intensity until we get through 2020, but December 21st is going to be a major shift because two planets move into Aquarius. So it's going to feel lighter. It's going to feel like, okay,
Mm.
now I can stretch into some of these things that I know I can do better and do differently, you know? So, and I do feel like, yeah, I felt a shift just before the election. Something just went like, finally, after working on this or practicing trying to get to that place of acceptance or whatever, but just before the election, I just had this, however this goes is however it goes. And it's going to be okay. And what you said, to choose peace. And that's something that I think I learned from Wayne Dyer. That was one of his things. You can choose peace in every moment and every circumstance. And something just totally shifted and I was okay. And then the election on my birthday actually
Right.
was actually the results happened on my birthday that there was a lot of celebration about with my certain circles. And it was so fun because everybody was elated and fun and happy. But then I also looked at that and I thought, I remember last election where I felt a lot of grief and despair. And my heart went to, I don't want to say the other side, but to the people who wanted something different. And I just, in my heart of hearts, I'm so done with the either or, your way, my way, especially with our political system. You know, we have to find a better solution. We have to do something different. And that's been, weighing on me, like in a way that I know there's something better. And that's what I'm hopeful for 2021 with Aquarius is all about humanity and looking outside of our little limited perspective to others and to innovative ways. And that's the vision I'm holding. Um,
Yeah.
and for myself as well. But I'm just so done with that back and forth and divided. So in that space, so for me, I noticed today it was like, oh, busy day because I have overbooked myself with things that bring me joy. Like I kind of went over like, what do I want to do? And I started to, take that advice that I give to my clients a lot is, you know, we can't do what we want to do perhaps, but find what you can do and the can't do. Do something. So I started taking Spanish lessons because I always wanted to do that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's with a woman. I love this. And this is open. I think she has other spots, but she's a woman in Venezuela. She doesn't speak a lot of English, but she is an excellent teacher. So we find our way and we use the chat box in Zoom and she's a lovely person and it's fun. And I had to shift it because I told her this is feeling like more work. Like she's really a teacher. Like learn this, study this. No, I just want to have conversation with you, and then I'll learn, right? But then I've got my spiritual direction program going. I've got my clients going. I've got my personal projects going. And I went, wow, okay, I think you picked too many things to do. It touched my ear when you said, you know, you're doing so much for friends and there's a part of you that's like, I don't know. And there's a part of me like to go back to that choice point. Am I choosing this to fill up the empty space? Because I think that's a easy thing for us to do in this time. Again, we're back in sheltering in place to fill up the time rather than utilize the time for purposeful unfolding, right? So I was looking at that today and having to uh I think maybe rearrange some things to see how I chose and where I chose from because I don't know in this moment. I just know I filled my plate up really quickly, like, okay, well, I'm just gonna be
Yeah.
really busy and get a lot of stuff done. And like, wait a minute, um, maybe, and there's that, what the last has it been 9 months that we've been quarantined? Gosh, this gestation period, right? We're all ready to birth something new, but we're like, no, we're gonna be elephants with this birth and hold it a little
Right.
longer. So because maybe we're not quite ready to birth what's possible, you know. Maybe that's it. I do feel that in myself. There's such possibility arising, but I'm not quite ready to birth the fullest potential of what I have and to make peace with that too, to
Yeah.
make peace that idea of like because I've been, I'm almost tired of talking about it, working on a book for so long now that the joke is, you know, it's easier to write a book in your head than to actually do it because it's still happening and it's taking so long and that's okay. to trust that whatever, when that comes or whatever comes out of this time of sheltering in place, um, it'll be perfect divine time, it'll be just what it is. So all that's been going on. I feel good, and I actually feel a lot of joy and hope has been rising more, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, what I found for myself, again, interesting was, yeah, I've committed to doing all these helping projects. And at the same time, I also set very clear boundaries,
Mhm.
time limitations, and
Yes.
agreements not been in my past.
Mhm.
I would just dive in and, work until it was done and all that stuff and overdo
Yes.
and
Mm.
overcommit
Mm.
out of some sense of, filling myself up in the doingness.
Mm.
So I got really clear when I was making the commitments, and it just happened to be all these people doing all this stuff around the same time.
Mhm.
Two things came to me. It is a barn raising for me. Part of the frustration of this often able to do the things that I'm here to do in the world, which is be of service in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
So I felt like I'm not doing my volunteer driving anymore. I'm not doing a lot of things that
Mm.
brought me joy and also helped me be in service of the world, because that's something that's really important to me. So I was like, oh, well, this is an opportunity to be of service in a particular area that I happen to be really, it's easy for me. It's easy for me to pack things. It's easy for me to unpack things. It's easy for me to sort things,
Mm.
to see things, a space differently than the person who's in it.
Yeah.
And it would be easy to fill up all my time with doing that for other people. And I'm like, no. I've done my house and I've done my barn and I've done all the projects I could do right now here. So the universe is like, oh, well, here's a couple of other places you can do that. But I
Mhm.
set very clear delineations of time
Mhm.
and what I, could and couldn't lift and all that kind of stuff, which
Mm.
was a good self-care for myself. It was fascinating. I was helping this person unpack. I said, I'll meet you at your house when the truck is leaving the old place. My control freak was just not happy because I really wanted to get her like 90% unpacked.
Mm.
She was so tired and so overwhelmed and didn't really make a plan for her
Mhm.
new space. So
Mm.
when the movers would say, well, where do you want this? She just spun around in the middle of the room. I don't know. I don't know. I
Mm.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Mm.
And I noticed I was getting frustrated, mad at me. I said, no, I'm just standing here because I feel useless,
Mm.
because I'm here to help you. And I can't help you because you don't know where you want things to go. I'd be
Mhm.
happy to just make choices for you. But every time I start to make a choice, you're like, well, I don't want it there. Well, where do you want it? Well, I don't know.
Mm.
And at one point, I just wanted to just know. So I got to notice my stuff. Oh, this is about me. I
Mhm.
want to do it the way I want to do it. How is that being of service to her?
Yeah.
What really is being of service to her is to say, just take a breath. You don't have to know where that goes right now. Maybe it gets
Mm.
moved in 3 weeks, but for now, let's figure out a spot where that can go. And I
Mm.
didn't get to unpack half of what I would have unpacked had I had free license, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yes.
It's her house, not my house. It's her project.
Mm.
Not so for me, as a person who in the past has over given and not remembered how to give back to myself and receive,
Mhm.
it's been interesting to watch myself in the process of helping these other people, of being of service to these other people, and remembering this is not about me. This is about what they need, and this is about service in this particular time frame. And if I
Mhm.
want to do it differently, I need to make that clear at the beginning. Yes, I'll be happy to help you, but you can't be in the room. You have to go have coffee somewhere and come back when I'm done, or something else. I
Mm.
get to be clear. When I'm helping my friend Larry, who has a trailer on our property, who he wants to really clear his own space, and I'm helping him rearrange his furniture and get stuff out that he's not using.
Mm.
Because it's a small space, number one, but also he trusts me to just make good decisions and then give him the tour when I'm done. Like, here's where your salt is and here's where your
Wow.
coffee goes. So he just trusts me to do that, and that works well for me. But that's a
Mm.
clarity that we set up at the beginning.
Mhm.
So it's, for me, it's about asking for what I need, being clear
Mhm.
about my boundaries, noticing when energy is happening. Oh, this is about me,
Mm.
not about the other person,
Yes.
and being willing to own that.
Mm.
All that, yeah, all that's good.
I love, gosh, so much. And I actually am very envious of your gifting there. I am not. I'm a clutterbug, I have to say. Julia Anderson also does this work, and she has some technique that she learned from someone else where you find out what your bug is. Like it's clutterbug or something. That I'm a butterfly. There's a butterfly, and these different types that there's the doers like you, and I can't remember which one that one is, but just hearing that I was whatever, I think it's a butterfly where you kind of flit around, and we tend to be more cluttery and not so focused in putting things away. But it's a gift that I wish I had. But a couple of things on that. Number one, I'm thinking what you're talking about is another place I've been like sitting in my heart, like in the healing of the collective. And what I've been saying to myself is, because that's a great perspective. It's not about, it's about me right now, and that's her stuff, mine. But then there is the piece where we come collectively. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about us. It's about us, and getting back to that us place, that us perspective, the we perspective, which I've been thinking about a lot. And there was something else. Oh, and then the other thing that came to mind when you were talking is I love how you're setting the boundaries and you're doing things differently. And I don't know if this is new to this time of quarantine that you got to see yourself more and create something new. But that's what I've been thinking about a lot too. Like, what did I learn these last 9 months? And what didn't I quite not learn that I need? I have 4 more weeks, probably more. I think they just said 4 weeks to give us a little spoonful that we could maybe digest, but even that was too much for some. So, but I think it may be longer, maybe, but what did I become present to that was not quite working for me, that isn't quite a contribution to the world, that I could do differently right now? So I've kind of been looking at that with not a lot of pressure, just almost it's different. I did feel pressure the first time we quarantined, like, oh my gosh, I have this much time to become perfect, right? I'm gonna do it this time,
I'm
right?
going to exercise every day and
Yes,
eat
right.
right.
Yeah. I think a lot of us thought we would do that. And they're like, no, I think I'm gonna try to just be gentle with myself and with what's happening. And maybe if I want to watch Netflix, I'm gonna watch Netflix, and that's okay. And
And
that's
that's okay.
okay. That's okay. But I do think in some ways, especially astrologically and spiritually, I think that we're getting another, like if we can shift perspective to, gosh, this is happening again, and why is this happening, to the why is it happening for us? And me personally, I have 4 more weeks that I'm probably, I am going to be homebound. What do I want to do with this time? That when the doors do open and we can, do create this new normal together, I'll be maybe more, have more capacity or more prepared or whatever. So I feel differently this time. This time it just feels like, I don't know, it sounds strange, but like a little extra gift of time for me. And maybe
Yeah.
it's because I'm an introvert. I don't know. I know it's hard for the social people, but for me, it's like, okay, 4 more weeks. Okay, I'm going to use
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This space of this gift of time.
Mhm. This gift of
And
time to reflect. Yeah,
yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I pray that when we do whatever the new normal is, that we all have, and we can't all have help but be changed by this in some way. But I guess I hold the possibility that when we do come back to creating a new normal and new connections and new social whatever, that we're going to, I think I noticed it already, don't you? Like when you do get to see someone or be with someone, there's more, for me, more joy of connection, because we've been so disconnected and isolated, more joy of the present moment, and like, who are you and what are you up to? I've just noticed that. I also noticed that, I spend a lot of time at home working or with my husband, and that if the random encounters I have, like I tend to just like, too much, because I'm like, oh, a person, like, hey, they tell them so much. I'm gonna have to recalibrate that again. Like too much information in too little of time wasn't necessary, So it's gonna be an interesting restart when it's like, okay, we are beyond this. and we can safely and without fear, get back to life.
Yeah. I was watching, I think, Grey's Anatomy last night, and one of the patients was saying, I've been alone since this began, basically. And the lady who was drawing my blood, I gave her my whole life story. And the
Yeah.
doctor said, that's okay. They're used to that. She said, she's the first person I've talked to in like 9 months.
Yes.
And
Right.
so, yeah, it's completely, yeah, we miss, and again, I'm so thankful for this amazing technology that enables us to connect. We're now doing weekly Zoom calls with my stepdad's daughters and occasionally his son,
Mm,
because they can't really talk to him on the phone. He doesn't hear very well, and he doesn't
mm,
always compute it. But if he can see, at least see their faces,
mm.
he may not get everything they say, but he's seeing, the faces of his beloved children
Oh, yeah. That's so special.
and
So
stuff. And
sweet.
I get him over to my house, and so thank God for, we the creativity that's coming out of what the necessity has been.
Yes.
It's, to me, been amazing, the way I've seen, live theater starting to happen on Zoom, and plays and music and concerts and all kinds of things. The arts will always continue, the storytelling will always continue, the connection will always continue.
Yeah.
It just may be definitely lucky to have so many bodies on my property that I can hug and talk
Yeah.
to. But, every once in a while I think, well, if I just imagine I'm on a rocket ship to Mars, and the only way I could communicate to people, on Earth is this. Well, can we make that enough? Can
Yes.
and can I make it enough that when I'm going out in the world and I'm hidden,
Mm,
that my eyes can smile at somebody and
mm.
really see them. I just ordered a batch of masks yet, for two reasons. One, because I'm starting to recognize, that the deaf community is so shut out with masks,
Oh,
completely
yes.
shut out.
Hmm.
And I don't know anybody who's deaf, but I'm
Yeah.
just like, what's one thing I can do? And
Yes. I love that.
I like to smile at people when I'm out at the grocery store, and they can't see that. All they can see is
Mm.
my eyes get a little smaller. That's all. So like,
Yeah.
oh, I got to find out how they work with fogging up. Like, does your breath fog them up? And if so, that's kind of pointless. So I
Hmm.
bought a couple of them to test.
I
So I'll
love
keep
that.
you posted on whether or not those work or not, because if they do, I'm going to start touting them everywhere, because again, it's this accessibility thing that
Hmm.
those of us that don't have a hearing limitation don't even think about.
Oh.
And yet for deaf people, they're like, talking louder through your mask doesn't help
Mm.
me.
Wow.
If I'm a lip reader, that doesn't help me at all. And
Wow.
yeah,
I love your heart. But that's it's really truly one of those blind spots probably for a lot of us. Like we don't even think that other layer of isolation for someone who's hearing impaired, that now they're completely cut off from even trying to understand. So
yeah.
that's beautiful, Asha. Wow.
Well, I
Um,
had no, I'm a very able-bodied person, and I've had no awareness of a lot of these things except when I started caring for my husband's mom and grandma.
yeah.
And they didn't have hearing loss, and they were pretty mobile, but
Hmm.
the small limitations that they dealt with, one was a vision issue and a balance issue, started to bring me this hyper awareness to spaces and doorways and stairs and accessibility and ease of getting in and out of places. And it's like, wow, I had no concept of this. And ever since then, that little narrow window of, my capabilities and abilities is
Yes.
just blown open. So now I'm much more conscious of all these other, not, I don't like the word limitations, but just
Mhm.
realities that people deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yes. Yes.
Wheelchair, my stepdad's now most of the time in a wheelchair, and
Hmm.
places that he just can't get. And we designed the house that they're living in to be very accessible. And there's a tiny little lip from the bedroom to the bathroom. Just it's like a threshold, just a tiny, like a normal threshold. We'd all walk over a million times,
Mm.
never think about it. But for some reason, the way it's designed, getting into the bathroom, there's a real jarring bump, and it's tiny, but
Mm.
particularly for his wheelchair, it's this jarring bump. And one time he was trying to pull himself through the doorway, And he literally pulled himself right out of his wheelchair and ended
Oh,
up on the floor.
oh my goodness. Oh, wow.
And, we wouldn't
Wow.
have ever thought, we thought the space was so accessible. And here's this
Mm,
little bump.
hmm.
Sometimes the little bump gets in our way and makes
Yes.
what we're trying to do that much harder. And it's not a hard fix. It's something we just have to be attentive to and fix it with a different threshold.
Hmm.
But again, if we don't, it's the whole Black Lives Matter thing and the people during this time of shutdown,
Hmm.
that now so many more people have a heightened awareness of, I didn't recognize that I never get asked for a receipt when I leave the store. I didn't recognize all the things that I never had to deal with
Hmm. Hmm.
and that other people have to
Yeah.
deal with every single day.
Yes. I love that. So you brought the consciousness to it. Just, and this is, I think, is going to be imperative for our next step of collectively unfolding. Compassionate curiosity. Let's all the C's: curiosity, compassion, um, and consideration. But how can we collectively do this differently? Like, that's, I think that's the issue. We don't think about how it's different for other people, or how they experience life differently, or what their needs are different than ours, or what their values are different. And that's why I think we have so much division. Like, there was a quote that came to me this morning. I had to go look it up because it was like sitting in my mind, maybe in my heart. See if I can remember it. We It's so fitting for our conversation. We don't have, let's see, we don't have peace because we have forgotten that we belong to one another. From Mother Teresa. We have
Mm,
forgotten we belong to one another.
mm,
And if we can remember through the conscious perspective, yeah, if we're all connected and we all belong to one another, I'm going to be more mindful that maybe I could have a clear mask so my friends can read my lips, that are people that I might encounter, or just expanding our limited perspective that just us into how might this affect other people and this world that we all share. So I love that. Yeah.
yeah, I just was started last night watching President Obama talking about his new book, and I didn't know he started this thing called My Brother's Keepers and all kinds of programs to create the awareness that I am my brother's keeper. I don't like the masculine centric way of saying that. I would like to say I'm my other's keeper,
Yeah.
instead of my sister, my brother, it's my other's keeper.
Mm,
And that they had some people that had gone through some of the programs that he said, we didn't invent new programs. We looked at programs that were already existing and how can they fit within this idea.
mm,
And so in high schools, they make sure that the whole group of kids creates kind of this giant tribe of, they're constantly helping each other to be the best they can. And if I'm not lifting up somebody else, I can't, how am I lifting myself up? It's this whole
mm,
same exact thing that you said. If we're not aware
mm.
that we're connected, it's so easy to be separate or to
Mhm.
see this person as other.
Yes.
For me, it's there is no you and me, there's only we. So
Mm.
so what I do for another, I'm also doing for myself. And I said, half the reason I was helping, especially some of these women that I know, single, older women who were trying to, as I said, that could be me. That could so easily be me.
Mm. There before the grace of God go I.
Yeah. Well, and I've been alone and I've had to move and I've gotten to be willing to ask for help and to
Mhm.
allow support in my life. And that was a huge lesson and a learning,
Mm.
and each of those people were like, oh, I don't want you to do that, or I don't want you to move me, or I don't want you to have to hassle. I'm like,
Mhm.
no, this is what we're here to do. We're barn raising. I
Yeah.
just read a great book about the Amish, and it's like, we're doing this as community. We're
Yes.
barn raising for each other. I'm helping you now. You help me with this other thing. We're
Mm.
here to be for each other, whether we're Republican or Democrat or everything in between.
Mhm.
We have people who have died. We have people who have disabilities. We have people, we have all these things that we have in common as a human being.
Mhm.
And it's that awareness that we are deeply connected and that reminding that we are deeply connected that will help us move forward, I think.
Yes, beautiful. I want to say two things and then we're going to wrap up because we agreed to 30 minutes. That
Yeah.
I had to recalibrate how I give service to others because I completely burned myself out like 5 years ago.
Oh,
And so I
yeah.
feel this tug to do more, do more, do more. So boundary setting imperative, but also to honor what we can do. And I'm speaking to the sisters listening to us. If you have more energy, more vitality, and you can do more, awesome. But if you don't, be mindful what you are doing is enough. I find other ways to outreach to people. I mean, I have my clients and I do service things that aren't in the way that I used to do them. I still feel the tug when I feel someone in need, like, oh, I need to, and I can't at this time. And I was talking to a friend who she takes care of children for a living. She's a professional nanny. There's another word, au pair or something. I can't remember
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah. And what we were talking about Black Lives Matter. And we were talking about, she said to me, I noticed in your post, you talk about we're in this intense transformational time. It may be hard. She said, I don't feel that because I'm just in my bubble. And I can sometimes feel selfish. She said, no, 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 no. It's not meant to say you should feel bad or have a hard time. I'm speaking to the people who do feel that. But she took it to mean like, because she wasn't engaging in doing all the work that other people were doing, that there was something wrong. And I said, look at your world. You're feeding and nourishing the hearts and minds of children every day. Makes me cry. And like, that is a beautiful contribution. Or for moms at home, or
Yeah.
dads at home or parents, your contribution is with your children and with yourself. And that's beautiful. So I can feel my old people pleaser and like, oh, am I like listening to you, like all the ways you're helping, which are beautiful, beautiful. And I'm like, I could feel the tug. And then I have to come back to the I am enough. And speaking to my friend the other day that she's enough. So whatever we're doing, whatever capacity we're holding for ourselves and others is enough. It's enough, right? So it's like one of those core wounds.
Yeah. I have a
Asha.
ton of friends that have, yeah, I have a ton of friends that have, fatigue issues,
Mhm.
immunosuppressive issues, fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
Physically they can only do a certain amount of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I notice I get tired earlier, faster. I can only do a certain amount of, I can't carry a million boxes the way I used to. And we have to be willing to know, here's what I can do,
Mhm.
not what are the million things I can't do. That's fine.
Yes, yes, yes.
Whatever. What can I do?
Mhm.
What am I able to do in these 10 minutes?
Mhm.
Today, somebody came up while I was getting ready to walk my dog down the driveway, and it was a friend of mine stopping to do something else. But we chit chatted for a minute, and then I was like ready to go. And then I got this feeling she needs to talk more. That's
Wow.
something I can do.
Yes,
Takes
yes,
takes time, but it
yes.
doesn't take any energy other than being present
Mm.
and listening. And and so yeah, that gift of being an ear, a loving eye,
Mm.
a place where people can just say what they need to say.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not going to march in Seattle for. So my, big world impacts
Mhm.
feel very small.
Mm.
What can I do to impact my immediate circle? Like that
Yes,
lady with the kids. She's impacting those children in a way that will make a difference to the world.
absolutely.
I'm doing small things in my little community
Yes.
safely, making sure they're safe, making sure I'm safe, making sure that I don't bring something home.
Mhm.
All those, there's all these limitations, that
Mhm.
parent limitations. My mom calls them opportunities.
I love that.
So what can we do within that space? What,
Yes,
again, that what's possible instead of what's impossible.
exactly. I just
And
did,
it
yeah.
has to be enough. It has to
And
be
it's enough because we're enough, and whatever we contribute is enough. I just did a video for the Soul Nurturer channel exactly on this, and I put a post out about this about we got it. We need to move out of what we can't do, because there's a lot of people bothered by the limitations, to what we can do, to reframe it to what we can do and what we get to do, and let that be
yeah.
enough. we get to do instead of, I can't, they're asking us to be quarantining again, don't want to do that. Okay, what if this is, and then, by the way, it is only temporary. There are people who have a whole life change. What I was thinking about was, and talking about was, like veterans that come back, from the war limbless, a whole new
Yeah,
world that will always forever be different, but they still find their, what can I do now? That we have to find that, what can we do in the circumstances that we're in right now? And there's always that choice, the choice of the power of perspective and the power of choice. So, well, my dear friend, it's great to connect with you again. And it's been a while since I got a powerful Asha prayer. Do you feel up to giving us a prayer to close out?
absolutely.
Yay.
I'm really glad to see you today. I've
Yeah,
missed you
I know, me too. It's been 2 weeks. We're,
at least. Yeah.
yeah. So
Time has no meaning anymore. So
isn't that the truth? That's a whole reset right
it's
there.
both,
So
it's been forever and it's also not been any time at all.
exactly. Yes. Good to see you. So I'm going to close my eyes and get ready to
All
receive
right.
one of your beautiful prayers.
So we just take that breath together that brings us into this moment, letting go of all the moments that have come before, letting go of all the moments that may be happening later. This powerful, beautiful present moment of now, where there is enough love, enough time, enough grace, enough peace for whatever wants to unfold. I feel the constant shift of energy in this weird dichotomy of going into the darkness and the dark time, the cave, the internal expressions of life in this season. And at the same time, feeling this weird, amazing, powerful growth and the reaching out into the rest of the world. So it's an interesting dichotomy of nurturing what is within, wanting to be born, that is waiting in the darkness, allowing it to be, allowing that the perfect divine right timing may be the phrase not yet. It doesn't mean no, just means not yet. And in the process and in the midst of all of that, what can we choose? What can we do? Who do I want to be in this moment? When we really recognize who we want to be in the moment, what there is to do makes itself, and it doesn't have to be a big, giant, grand, earth shaking doingness. A small moment of kindness, a moment of listening, a smile, complimenting someone on their mask. These are all beautiful acts of service that engender this beautiful world. So I let go of this time together, knowing that it has been divinely guided and guarded, as always, that it is perfect in this moment. And I let it all go, trusting in the process of life to unfold the next 10 minutes in their perfection. And so it is.
Mhm. So it is. Mm. Thank you, dear friend. And thank you to all who are watching this with us. We hope that something in this conversation touches your soul and helps you remember that you are enough in this moment. In every moment, you are enough. And we'll see you next time in another conversation of Sister My Soul. Take good care until then. Bye,
Bye.
friend. Oops.